What's up, y'all? Happy What's Current Wednesday, August 5th. Happy half birthday to my past Feb 5 EPs. Insane shout out, I know. But I'm back from my vacay, and now Sean's on a little vacay of his own. So I decided to make today's show the second of back-to-back solo episodes. That's that Jordan Pippen right there, baby. When one of us ain't there, the other shows up. So unlike Sean's solo effort in the present last week, I got a little lazy on this one and pulled something from the archives. But hey, I did the work at one time, so it was going to get released regardless. This is a recording of mine from about 5 months ago, back in March. And looking back, this was just days before coronavirus really broke out. And so some of the things I talk about in the episode that were overwhelming me a bit at the time are going to sound like small potatoes compared to the events that have since rocked the world and really impacted us as a people in more serious ways. And looking back on the episode, I even think like, man, my life is probably twice as full now as it was even at that moment. But anyways, listening back, I'm proud of the breadth of things I was able to capture in this recording, somewhat on the fly, in a moment where I was a little stressed out, but decided to just show up regardless of state. So I hope y'all enjoy it, and we'll be back with the goods next week. In the words of Theo Von, onward.
How much wanna sing versus how much wanna stop it now.
빈진호 형이 말해 인생은 늘 변함없고 별게 없대 영감은 전부 메말라가 Likes and comments gone demolish my current state of mind 그때였지 진짜로 떠나야 할 때가 됐다고 생각했어 Rest in peace now 한 발 늦었다는 생각이 먼저 들었을 때에 난 아마 인간 실격이지 않았을까 한 발짝 더 가까워진 거지 천국보단 지옥과 Karma over drama no exception 나를 봐 Praying not the answer roll the dice See game of odds 현실에 이리저리 치여져러 있는 나를 구원해줄 단 한마디 너는 해줘 baby let's say
Good afternoon, y'all. What's current? Episode, whatever episode this is. It is a Saturday. Saturday afternoon, March 8th, 2020. Nice day out. Believe we're going to reach 60 degrees today. So that's obviously very nice here in the state of Ohio. As we go through the roller coaster of early spring, late winter that we go through every year where, the weather can't make up its mind. And I thought I would kind of maybe go off of the usual course for this episode. And just try to keep it authentic to, I guess, my current state, and how I'm feeling right now. I frequently experience, I would say, overwhelm. I would say anxiety, but that might be a strong term. I think there's some people out there that deal with anxiety for real in a way that I've never experienced, but this is it's just general overwhelm from kind of all of the different things that are present or current with my life that need attention and require action from me and pull my thoughts in different ways, in ways that kind of pull me out of the present moment. And, I feel like this kind of steers off course because for me personally, I find that I'm at my best when I'm prepared, when I'm rehearsed. The intro episode of this podcast is something that was very rehearsed, very, it was written. And so, I could deliver in a confident way and re-recorded it a bunch. Truly what I did right now is just, decided that sometimes it's better to just capture what's authentic. There's no need for me to try to put myself in the most 100% positive, carefree, perfect state to deliver a podcast because that's what's going to produce the best podcast. Sure, that's the way I like to be. That's the way I think many of us aim to be daily. But I think it's just as important to capture what really, really is present about you and your mood and just your current state. And so, I kind of just scribbled down a bunch of things that are on my mind, that I find have, led me to this state. I really only spent, a minute or two doing it. So I'm sure it's not even the half of it, but I'm currently at a time where, all these different random things are kind of pulling me in different directions. This podcast is one of them. Something that I maybe am developing some more, I guess, angst about releasing, because it's something that I've been working on for a while, and with Sean. And, I feel like I've let these other life factors kind of control my schedule and control my attention in a way that can often steer me away from, what's truly important to me. And then this is in no, like particular order or anything like that, but just random things that are on my mind. I need to plan a summer vacation. I've got to do some work on my finances, look around at jobs, kind of looking at some of that right now with my career. And then random things like my phone is totally disorganized. My email is disorganized. All my notes need organized and updated and cleaned out. I want to, on the music side of things, I want to drop an EP for the summer. What's next with that? What's the next step there? I've done a lot of music work in the past week or two, but I need to, kind of clarify the direction, and really get clear about what I'm doing next with that. I need a new bed. My bed sucks. I've had it forever. It's just breaking. And there's some research I got to do. There's some emails I got to send. Some family stuff to kind of look into, and it's just, all of these things. Those are just some of the things, I guess, that were top of mind in the moment. And we've all got a million things to manage in our lives, and so I'm no outlier in that regard. But I really do depend on what I allow myself to consume. I guess maybe what I allow into my brain or into my consciousness, as far as like material I consume, because, if I want to manage those things in my regular life, my creative life, and have, create harmony between all those, I really have to make sure that what I am allowing as far as input is something that, and are things that are going to contribute to that in a positive way, that are going to actually be things I can apply to, bringing the order that I need, in my life. I definitely require order. Like, I respect people that can kind of operate out of the chaos that I just kind of described. That's not me though. Sure, I can, but that's spreading myself too thin personally. You're not going to get quality out of me on any of those things if I'm actually spending 5 minutes at a time on, each of those things, trying to just manage all that. But so, I really have been depending on, meditation, making sure that that's something that I'm showing up to do daily, and which I'm pretty good about at this point. I mean, that's a habit that I've pretty much locked in. I can always be better, and the podcasts I listen to, the audiobooks I listen to, the books I read, 90% of the time I'm consuming things that are, things that will help me, will really help me, kind of bring my best self out of the kind of all of the dust and that is kind of swirling around me, letting all that settle so that the best me emerges for things like this, for my creative life, for my podcast, my music. Those things require me to be my best self. And, as I'm sure and you listening, like that, your best self is hard to come by if you're overwhelmed. And so a book I'm listening to right now is called Stillness is the Key. You may be familiar with it if you're a reader, in particular of that genre of things, by Ryan Holiday. And it really just continues to stress the importance of being present. It's a book that I finished in January, and now I'm listening to the audiobook. And man, I think with books in general, you got to go through them maybe 2 to 3 times to really get the full value out of it. But really, each time you read a book, I mean, it's a different book every time, because you've changed, your life has developed. I'm seeing things, and I'm gaining perspectives that I didn't even catch the first time around just a month ago when I read it. And all of the things that we have going on in our lives, like you can't produce the best output or perform the best at those things until you can provide or not provide. What am I trying to say? Until you can just devote your full attention to what's in the moment, what you're doing right now. And obviously it's a little contradictory, because I started this podcast by listing, like 20 things that are pulling my mind different places. But just in that moment, as all those thoughts were emerging, I'm like, you know what, like, of those things that I listed, yeah, starting the podcast is up there as one of the highest. I just recorded a good episode with Sean last night, and I don't need to let those things be the weight, or the clutter that is hiding the podcast, or the barriers between me and getting my podcast out there. Why don't I use it? Why don't I use what's going on to create something authentic? I mean, some of the music I've created in the last couple of weeks, it was sort of a deadline situation, which I describe in another episode with Sean. But out of that is just the product of some authentic, creativity. I didn't necessarily make myself clear the deck of every other thing that I had lingering in my mind in my life, and then go make the music, because I feel like the song would be the best if I did it. Sure, the music's better the better your headspace is, and the more your other priorities are sort of handled and in place. But a book I'm reading right now called Creative Calling really speaks to some kind of life-changing creative perspectives that I've been working into my process. And one of them is that you've got to create before you consume, and before you allow your mind to be consumed with news or social media or anything of the outside world. And I'm kind of talking on like a daily basis. Like, you've got to show up to do what you do best as early in your day as possible, or with an order of events that kind of puts all of the managing random tasks and whatever deadlines, bills, all that, as far back as you can push that in the day. You were going to be better served to just create, first thing, before you let your headspace get filled with the stuff that is going to, create or not allow you to create your best work. And so right now, you know what, I kind of just kind of snapped into a mode where I'm like, I'm just going to show up and record something. I'm not even going to write it or rehearse it like I might normally do. I would say some of the podcasts are going to be pretty prepared and, ordered and designed to kind of hit on points that bring you value after value after value. And so, but this one I wanted to just keep real, and, you may connect, you may not with all of this, but, when you do these sort of things, and when you show up to do what you do best, no matter what the circumstances, that's so empowering. Like that shows you that there's really nothing that can hold you back. If you can show up to do your work no matter what, and you're not letting the outside world or circumstances dictate what you're going to create with your life and with your work at the end of the day, then, I mean, you're set, because you have ingrained your priorities into your mind and your body, your soul, your heart, what's most important to you. And you're grown. You know what you really should be doing. Once you can learn what you should be doing at any given moment, that's when things are that's when the ball's in your court. Just watching a clip on YouTube of J. Cole talking about meditation and how how he definitely does it a lot, and it's a big part of his life, I think, at this point. But I don't know how dated this clip is. He could even be a lot farther along than he was, when the clip came out. But he was talking about how he was only meditating when circumstances called for it, like when he was anxious or stressed or worried or whatnot, or needed to kind of say prayer or what have you for something. And he's just saying, like, that's something that I want to be doing every day, regardless of circumstance. I want to be showing up and doing it through the good and the bad, and not be a slave to his thoughts, not be a slave to the mind and the urges of the mind and the body and all of that, to kind of have control over what it is that he thinks and does on a daily basis. And I think that relates on so many levels to me. I'm not just podcasting right now because I finally found, the perfect state or the sweet spot of the day where I can podcast, and I can only podcast when XYZ. Like, this is the first time I've recorded something so on the fly in a podcast format that I plan on releasing. It's because I know for me, it'll boost my confidence, and it'll kind of broaden the possibility of my creative, my podcast process. I can do this whenever now. It doesn't matter if I'm feeling good or bad or stressed or excited or whatnot. I can just capture my thoughts, and I can put them out there and do my best in the moment to, sort of channel them into the kind of the valuable output, that I always aim for you guys to be able to pull value from. So, I don't even want to ramble on too much longer. This is something that I feel like is serving its purpose for me right now. Just to kind of sum it up, that you just do what you can to be present with each thing that you're doing, because things won't be quality. You won't get quality work done until you can really focus in on one thing at a time. It's a lot easier said than done. There's a lot of different methods and ways that I've tried that have kind of helped me with that, but a long way to go with that. But I guess really even the more overarching theme of everything that I'm trying to say here is just to really prioritize your life in a way that sets your priorities as being the most important things. The to-do list isn't always the most important thing. I know in our hectic, adult and corporate lives, it can seem like the to-do list rules all, and it's just a linear list of check boxes that you've got to go one by one by one by one. But, if you operate that way too much of the time, you don't open up the space for the value you can get from, really zoning into a book or into the message of a podcast or into a video that is about something that you like or want to do yourself, or, the work that you want or have to do with your life. Like, just learn how to, break up your approach and make space for the stuff that truly matters. This podcast truly matters to me. Making music truly matters to me. My girlfriend, my family, my friends, they truly matter to me. I can often get selfish with my creative work and podcast and, do music stuff before even addressing those important people in my life. So even within those most important things, I've got work to do as far as how to, I guess, divide or distribute my attention. But either way, really clarify with yourself what those top 5 or 6 most important things in your life are. And if you do something creative, or if there's work that you're really passionate about in general, anything related to that, really bring that up to the top of the list, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to leave you most fulfilled, is putting the most time into what you're best at or what you like most, and not just being a slave to your list or your thoughts or your social media or whatnot. So I know that was a whole scrambled mess of word vomit, I guess, for lack of a better term. But this is this just goes to show that even me as a podcaster and a personality that's comfortable doing something like this. I often don't know what I'm doing. I did not know what this episode was going to be like. Just showed up, did it to keep the, strengthen the habit of it, the consistency of it. Those things are more important to me than being in a perfect headspace for each thing. I've learned those lessons myself in the past with music. Like waiting till conditions are perfect for me to begin my next song or my next project, or and doing that. Like I've gone 9 months, almost 10 months without releasing any music, and a lot of that time without even creating it, just because I somehow allowed other things to take priority. And so it's not the way. And I'm kind of, it's very, very clutch, I guess, that I've kind of reeled myself back into, what matters most. And so I don't plan to operate that way again, or abandon or, neglect, my gifts. You if you've got a gift, it's a crime not to use it. And there's a quote about to not use the gift is to sacrifice the gift, or something like that. I probably have that way off. You probably know the quote, but yeah, I hope this rambling hasn't been too painful, but just keep your priorities in check. Understand that the things that you have decided mean the most to you are things that you can show up for no matter what. Those are the foundational pieces of you, that when those main things are, on point, when those machines are running, everything else that you've been stressing about, that stuff's going to all start to sort itself out. The stars are going to align. You're not going to be as stressed out about the other little things, because you've got the big things in check. You've got yourself operating at a more, you're at a happier level. Your mood's better, and you can handle life in a more effortless, carefree way when you really take care of what matters most first, and then go from there. But all right, that's enough. I think like 4 times I've tried to end this podcast, and I'm such a rambler. I got to just cut myself off. Appreciate you listening. Be back soon for, whatever's next and whatever's current. But until then, just keep working on being your not only your best self, but your most true and authentic selves out there. All right, I'm outie. Later, Luns.
누구와 날 잡으려 하지 마.